PD on the Go, the podcast that delivers bite-sized learning on communication, collaboration, and facilitation for busy teacher leaders. Tune in while you're in the car, on your lunch break, or making copies, and get ready to level up your leadership skills. My name is Mary Beth Anderson, and I'm joined today by my colleagues from the Office of Professional Learning in Fairfax County Public Schools.
I'm Rebecca Hazelbeck.
Hello, Erica Williams.
Hi, I'm Hallie Case.
And so on our last few episodes of PD on the Go, we've been talking about how to move teams forward so they feel like they're working well together, both in their function and making impact on student learning. And so today we're going to do a little something different. We're going to share a scenario that teams often face and talk about the root causes of that challenge, and then what are some things that we could do to proactively support that team, or maybe some things that a team leader could do in the moment with that team. So I'm going to share the scenario and then we'll talk through it. So the scenario is a team wants to improve how students were learning a tricky math concept. So they tried some new teaching methods and we're finally starting to look at student work samples together. And the leader asks, "What do you notice?" But instead of talking about student understanding, the team just complimented the teacher's work and handouts. So more focus on the actual task or worksheet. The leader was glad everyone was engaged, but felt stuck on how to move the conversation towards actually changing their teaching or instruction. So, what might be some root causes of this hurdle or challenge? Erica, what's coming up for you?
Well, this actually seems like a scenario that I faced with the team at one point, and something I was thinking about was maybe they're new to looking at student work. That's not an experience that they've had before, and therefore they may not be as comfortable offering feedback to their team or teammates, or they could be concerned about being judgmental and hurting someone's feelings if there were ideas that they had about how to enhance the student work. Something else that makes me think about is the level of safety and trust on the team. That always comes into play when you might have a tough conversation or maybe posing questions of a teammate and someone could take it the wrong way if that safety or that trust is a little bit uncultivated. So it's just also, those come to mind immediately, and I know that there are many others that could possibly be root causes as well.
Yeah, because looking at student data takes some vulnerability on a team, right? And kind of figuring out how to do it. Yeah, so Rebecca, what could be some things that team leader could have done maybe to prevent this from happening, or maybe put some structures in place to support the team in being successful?
So one of the things I think is when I think about teams and the ways they work together is that clear is kind. So as a facilitator, we can be very clear about what it is we're going to do when we come together. Are we just looking at this data, or are we using this data to really support us with our instructional next steps? So I think making sure our outcome is clear from the start is really, really important for teams. I think making sure we have that clear protocol in place, those guiding questions that support individuals with thinking about student learning. So after taking the time to do the here's what and see what the data really says, taking the time also, well, now what are we willing to do about it? How are we going to make sure we're using this to improve instruction?
Yeah, so letting the teachers know what to expect when they go in there and understanding the structure to get to those learning outcomes.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah. So we can always be like proactive and have the best of intentions, but sometimes it doesn't work out, right? So Hallie, what could a team leader maybe do in the moment when something like this comes up and they're noticing the conversation surface level?
Yeah. So I think if it's sort of the ship has sailed on a protocol, or things just feel like there's a lack of depth, a couple things that come to mind for me would be, we talk about working agreements a lot on the podcast. Actually, we were reflecting on that earlier today as a team, because we think they're really valuable if you keep them alive. So if there is some sort of working agreement around kind of what you do with data, as Rebecca was sharing, or how it's interpreted, or that, everyone, there's collective responsibility. We're all responsible for all the learners that we're talking about. It's not just these are Erica's kids, these are my kids, so it's separate data. So returning to a working agreement, if you have one in place, could be a way to kind of intervene in the moment if things are pretty surface level. But I think using communication skills in this moment would be really key too. Listening really carefully for generalities. So like in the scenario that you shared, Mary Beth, the question that the leader asked was, what do you notice? And then they probably, I would imagine, started saying things like, well, it was good, or I liked it, right? And so, or like all students seemed to do fine. So generalities of, well, you could probe that. What do you mean when you say good? Like, tell me a little bit more about that. Or you mentioned all students. Like, so when you look at the student work, is it true that all students, or is there something else there that we should dig into? So listening for those generalities and then posing specific questions really out of curiosity can help move teachers into getting to that deeper analysis level in a scenario like this. Because superficial talk, it's tricky, right? Especially for a lot of the reasons Erica named, getting below the surface a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking about what both of you shared, like having a structure and then also using communication skills to get away from those generalities. And we have one structure in our protocol library that could really support this with a strategy ladder. So Rebecca, can you tell us a little bit about that strategy ladder?
Yeah, we used it one time or many times in one of the CLTs that I was on, and we really brought all of our student work to the table and thought about where each student was. And then we were able to think about, well, what do we need to do to help move that student up the ladder? And it really helped us focus in on that not all kids have learned it yet, and that there are different things we could do to support some students with moving along the continuum towards that learning.
Yeah, and it really gives teams a way to, even if your students already know it, the ladder ranges this way to keep moving them forward, or maybe they haven't gotten it yet, and how to keep moving them throughout the rungs of the ladder. So if our listeners are thinking about bringing student work to the CLT and to the collaborative team, thinking about what ways they could proactively put some things in place, we've got a structure that we'll go ahead and link on our PLC site. And please follow us on Instagram at FCPS_PD. And we hope that you tune in and listen to us next week. Thanks.